everybody. This is Josh back for episode 3 of the USAC Midwest Thunder Midgets monthly, joined by race director and co-owner of the USAC Midwest Thunder Midgets, Greg Watson. Greg, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you, Josh. Always a pleasure.
So I want to start out by talking about the DARF Awards this past early winter into fall. I was happy to be there and be presented with the Duke Dinsmore Award. You yourself were awarded with the Pioneer in Racing Award. Go ahead and talk about that, what that award means to you.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. That was quite a surprise, honestly. I never saw that one coming. In particular, I'm a fan of racing, all the way back, participated. I think you and I talked about this in the first interview, started with my dad back in the 1970s, going to Columbus Motor Speedway, seeing the races there. And this particular award is in the name of Jerry Wall. And Jerry was somebody that I was familiar with all the way back then in the 70s with the work that he did as an announcer at area tracks and his involvement with the Dayton Auto Racer fan club at that time. So it would have been great, if there wasn't a name on it, but the fact that it was an award that they give out in Jerry's name, I just think is really cool because, hopefully that helps carry his name within the racing community here for people for years in the future that'll always have a familiarity with what he did. So, yeah, I guess, my business partner, Chuck Taylor, and I, when we put this thing together, it was something we felt like needed to be done. It certainly wasn't anything either one of us were looking to profit from or get attention from. And to have that pop up the way it did was, I guess, shocking because it's like, wow, I wasn't even sure anybody was paying attention. And I guess maybe they are. So very cool.
Yeah. That was my first time making it to one of their banquets. Very well put together banquet.
Yeah.
The food was great. The awards were great. Just everything about what they do there is really cool. And the awards that they put out, I mean, it's all top notch. I can't say anything better than there's not words to say the amount of effort that they put into for that end of the season banquet. It's something that you got to experience.
Yeah, I have been to several. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it this year, which was unfortunate. I had a family commitment that interfered. I did put together a little thank you note, and I shared that with Steve Stiffel, longtime board member there at DARF, and asked him to speak on my behalf, kind of put him on the hot seat there. But, I understand that he did share those thoughts, and, I just thought it was important that, that I was able to share my appreciation for receiving that award, even though I couldn't be there in person. But you're right. It's a great organization, one that we've certainly benefited from. Our drivers have benefited from all the things they do to raise awareness about racing here in Ohio. But also, and it was something that I knew all the way back in the 70s, DARF was known for helping out drivers who had been injured, fallen on hard times, donated, on their behalf to help them get back up on their feet. And several of our drivers have benefited over the years as well. So I definitely wanted to acknowledge all that. I also wanted to acknowledge that, in my opinion, this award was for both me and for Chuck Taylor, my partner in this endeavor, because we've done all this together, all the good stuff, all the bad stuff. We've all been in it together, and he certainly deserves as much of this as anyone else.
Yeah, very well said. Want to get a quick shout out to DARF. They've been doing a lot of different things, throughout the season. If you have a membership, you get discounts to races. They've been doing some Gab Fest at the Frickers, I believe, in Troy.
Mm-hmm.
They've got one, I think, tomorrow, January 27th. And then we'll talk about it a little bit later, but the Race Cars and Future Stars in March. So, like you said, they do some really good stuff. Can't say good enough things about the Dayton Auto Racing Fan Association. Moving on, though, something that is great news for the USAC Midwest Thunder Midgets as a series is that you had 10 drivers compete in the Chili Bowl. Talk about that.
The Chili Bowl is always something I look forward to. I've had the good fortune to go quite a few times now since around 2010. I wasn't sure what I was getting into that first time, and once you've done it once, it's kind of addicting. You want to go back. You want to be a part of all that. Just because, that's the center of the universe when it comes to midget racing in January, right? So all that's really stepped up now with the involvement of flow racing. It used to be a little harder to see the broadcast, and now they've sorted all that out, and it's a great production. Honestly, it kind of between the shootout after Christmas and then the Chili Bowl, it's like 2 weeks out of my life sitting in front of the TV because you just can't stop. But it really is a great forum. A lot of folks just want to be a part of that and participate. Obviously, they had 386 cars entered, I think was the number I heard this year. Not everybody's going to get that A main or B main or even C main, featured. But being a part of that, I think is important. But yeah, we had a good crew. Actually, I think you said 10 participants, and that's fair because we talked about 10 and then realized later we have Perry Parker, who's going to be a rookie with us this year. He ran a few races, drives for Steve Gresham out of Indiana. So both Steve and Perry were at the Chili Bowl this year, and we kind of missed, drawing some attention to Perry. But I'm excited to have him a part of our group. Jacob Denny, who probably needs no introduction, but our 2020 and 2021 champion, who's gone on to great things at both USAC and the Extreme Outlaw Midget Series, had kind of a tough deal, got caught up in somebody else's wreck, and didn't transfer into the A main on Saturday night, but we certainly expected him to be there. Cale Coons, our 2023 Rookie of the Year, had a pretty good run, good showing. He continues to get better and better. I hear he's going to focus on the full USAC Sprint Car Series in 2026. Zach Weigel, our 2023 champion, has had some real outstanding moments at the national level the last couple of years. He had a decent run, I thought, this year, and some good moments. Abby Holbein, our 2020 Rookie of the Year, had some mechanical issues that kind of shortened her week more than she would have liked. But along with Michael Magic, kind of never really got out of the gate, unfortunately, due to his engine issues. But yeah, also Luke Hall, Matt Lux, who I thought did a great job of documenting his week there, making memories, I think was the way he put it. And Cody Beard, who has raced with us off and on now for years. We still consider him one of our guys. But at the end of the day, it had to be the Jacob Boxell show, right? So fantastic job in the Four Kings car with Matt Westfall as crew chief there. Made it into the B on Saturday night and missed the transfer by 0.011 seconds. So just a fantastic job. We've known about Jacob and his talent for a while. You had him on one of our first podcasts that you and I did. Great guy, all in with this racing thing, puts in the work. One of the comments didn't surprise me at all that I heard, misses out by, 11 thousandths of a second to make it into the A main, took off the gear, went back, started wrenching on KTJ's car. And that's just who he is. Right. Yeah. So super impressive. Any other year, I'm sure he would have been Rookie of the Year. But as I understand, he ended up second in the voting for the Chili Bowl Rookie of the Year, behind that phenomenal 14-year-old kid that came out of the West Coast micro scene, and that's maybe another Kyle Larson in the making. You got to think, but JB certainly demonstrated just how good of a driver he is. And at this point, you're starting to see some of the variety of his capabilities, because he came off a super run at the Rumble in Fort Wayne right before Christmas as well. Just really smooth on the asphalt on that little track for a first time out in the midget there. So, yeah, it was pretty cool. We might go a little overboard trying to promote our guys out in the Chili Bowl as other associations do across the country. But I think everybody that follows our series, 4,500 some people that follow us on Facebook, we know not all of them are as attuned as we are to who's running what night and what heat they're in and how do I go see how they're doing. And we just try and share all that information.
Yeah, you guys did a good job keeping that running on social media. And I thought the number for entries was around 400. Maybe I'm thinking incorrectly.
Talked about 400 and then kind of backed off of that a little bit. Yeah, I saw a recap the other day where they were claiming the 386 number, but I mean, that's close enough to 400. I'll give it to them.
Yeah. Well, and on that note, let's say 400. You guys, your series had at least 2 or more drivers Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday night. So well represented there at the biggest midget race in the world.
Well, like I said, it gave me something to tune in for every night but Wednesday. But by then I was so used to tuning in, I did anyway, just because I had to see how it turned out for everybody else. So I just really appreciate everyone, because that takes a ton of work. I can't even imagine. But everybody that puts that together every year, so we have the opportunity to participate, enjoy whatever your role is, something as cool as that.
Definitely. Before we dive into 2026, why don't we do a little recap and let's talk about 2025 for the USAC Midwest Thunder Midgets.
Yeah, I think my first thought, and it's probably a lot of others' thought too, is 2025 was the year of the great rainout. We ended up, I had scheduled 23 points races with 2 non-points races. Of the points races, we lost 12 to rain. So more than anything, I think it just kind of broke up the momentum. It wasn't until I think the Eldora race at the end of May that we finally got a race in. The craziest part of it all was that we had a streak there, a period there. We were given a great opportunity to be a support division with the All-Star Sprint Car Ohio Sprint Speed Week. So we ran at Lima on Friday. We came back on Sunday for the first All-Star show at Millstream, raced on Thursday night at Waynesfield, and then came back again on Saturday at the finale down at Atomic. So great week of racing. Who would have thought that out of the 13 races we got in all season, 4 of them would be in essentially one long week. And then it started to rain again. Right? And I think the next time we got on the track was probably July. So just odd in that regard. But there was a lot of highlights through that too. So I'd be remiss to just write it off as, that's behind us and we'll move on to 2026. We had 49 drivers race with us again, coincidentally the same number, although it wasn't the same names and faces, but 49 drivers that competed in at least one race. I don't know off the top of my head how many were rookies last year, but it seemed like a pretty short list, like maybe only 3 or 4. So one of the things when I look forward to 2026 that excites me is that we've got quite a few rookie candidates that I'm aware of. There's always a couple of people that come out of the the shadows that I haven't been made aware of. But Seth Crandall started unfortunately had some mechanical issues in his first night out and kind of put it on a back burner, but his car is going to be together. I mentioned Perry Parker out of Indiana, the micro scene there. Tayton Long ran a couple of races with us. I think it's your fifth race, you lose your eligibility to be a rookie under the USAC rules. So Tayton had a few, but didn't exhaust his eligibility, so he'll be back. Chase Hodges is another guy that ran a few races with us. He was real close. Kind of, I think, did the math and said, okay, we're going to hang on to that eligibility and wait till 2026. Comes from a racing family. His dad, Josh Hodges, has raced across Indiana, non-wing sprint cars for years. And we got a couple of younger guys coming in from the quarter midget scene. Jonathan Decker, and might be mispronouncing his last name. If so, I apologize. But TJ Borsos are both moving up from the quarter midgets into the midgets with us. And we've had a lot of guys over the years. Denny was a quarter midget guy. Aaron Leffel, our first champion, the first couple of years came from those. Both of my sons ran quarter midgets. Bryce Massengill was another. Gunnar Lucius. So some guys come up through the cart pipeline. Some guys come through the quarter midgets, but they're all a great training ground to bring them to to this point. So, some of the other things that we look at during the off season, we had 5 different quick time winners. And again, considering we only got 13 races in, a little shorter than normal, but Matt Lux won 5 of those in an Ecotech powered car. Tyler Nelson won 4 of those quick time awards with his Honda. So I like seeing that kind of parity between the manufacturers in our series. It's something we look at constantly to make sure that, it's a fair and level playing field for everybody. But while they both have their advantages and disadvantages, I think it all kind of works out in the end when we look at qualifying times and who's setting those times and who's winning the heat races and who's winning the features.
Well, and I would just like to touch on that before you continue. I can tell you firsthand, I saw just how much you guys put into specifically tech and making sure things are on the up and up. I want to say it was at Lawrenceburg. I was in the pits after a race, and there was a car that was the motor was being torn apart.
Yeah.
So, like you said, you're looking for that parity between all the different competitors, and it doesn't matter who it is. You guys are going to make sure that everything's on the up and up, and that the competition's fair, and that's something that I can really appreciate.
Yeah, I was going to talk about this later when we got to 2026, but I think maybe that's a good intro. Tech is something that we take serious, as well as looking at the rules every year during the off season and monitoring honestly throughout the year. We look to USAC and what they do at the national midget level. Obviously, there's differences because of the engine packages that we use, but first and foremost, what's USAC doing, and does that apply to us? And then what did we learn throughout the season? What concerns did we have? Is there any place where we feel like we might be vulnerable and need to make sure? So, yeah, after the race inspections are important, but they also concern me. Lawrenceburg maybe isn't one of the worst in this regard, but a lot of the tracks we go to, we finish up, there's another class, modifieds, late models, somebody out there stirring up a lot of dust. It bothers me that we're taking valve covers off and we're inspecting valve springs and cam lobes and those sorts of things in that sort of environment. So one of the things that we have done for the last few years on a voluntary basis is seal motors so that guys can have their cars looked at in a better environment, and we can simplify that post-race inspection. We're going to revisit that here in a few weeks and come up with a strategy, make it a little more accessible for all, our Indiana guys as well as our Ohio guys to have their cars inspected and sealed. because I think we need to really push that. The other thing is the guys doing that work for the last 10 years have been guys that have cars in our series. For the most part, they're the dads or owners or whatever of cars, so they're not the drivers, but they have other responsibilities that night as well. And, we've been leaning on them. So one of the things that we've discussed, and we still got to figure out the compensation into this, but we would like to move away from the tech committee doing the inspection and having a representative of our series that would play more of a tech director role and oversee that process during race day. That would get me and Chuck. I mean, ultimately, if something is discovered that's an issue, then we want those discussions to come to us and we be a part of those decisions. But when it comes to, having somebody at the scales or at the tent doing the work, I think we need to bring some more consistency. I don't think we have a rules issue. I think our rules package is right where it needs to be. The only thing we're really looking at for this year is, we still have a lot of guys that have the old SP2 right rear tires, a little softer. National Series, all the National Series, Power I and USAC and Outlaw Extreme all went to the SP3 tire, which in my opinion is a great tire. I'm just philosophically opposed to taking a perfectly good tire, cutting it up and throwing it in the dumpster or recycling it or whatever, when people can still get some use out of them. So we went into 2025 assuming we would end the use of the SP2s during that season. And then with all the rainouts, people ended up still having some at this point. So we haven't picked a date, but let's call it mid-season. Say at this point, use up everything you got. They're not making them anymore. We're not finding them in anybody's garages, hidden away, right? Our guys have them. We just need to use them up. The other thing that got some exposure last year at the national level, and there were some pictures floating around this year, especially the Keith Kuhn cars with the 5-shock package. Shocks are an expensive part of what we do in the first place. To buy 4 of them, to buy a 5th just feels like even more expense. You need a different bird cage, shock, the whole deal. So we don't see where that has a place in a series like ours from adding additional expense. So that's the one thing I think you will see a change in the rule book. But everything else, I feel like, led to a good year last year and takes us into a good place. So it's, like I said, it's not a rule book problem. I think it's a process problem. And I think we just need to get some more resource in there to help us administer that on a race day basis. And I do want to say thank you to Randy and to Todd, 2 guys on the tech committee that have been there with us from the very beginning. They put in their 10 years. They've done their fair share. Time to let them enjoy times with their sons. And because that's the best part of it, right? When everything's done and you know how you did and everyone wants to relax, having to run to the tech tent and spend whatever amount of time doing that work kind of takes away from all that. So we'll figure it out, but I think we'll be better for it.
Well, and you talked about on the last episode, you talked about sealing the motors, and once again here talking about sealing the motors again, and I think it's a good idea. I can tell you that if I remember correctly from that night in Lawrenceburg, I think you guys were done. Everybody was done. So there shouldn't have been any issues because it was way after, but I understand what you're saying. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think, like you said, it's going to make things easier. As far as the burn off time on the tires, goes back to what, the reason behind you and Chuck starting this series is we want to make it affordable. So guys that want to race can race. And I think that helps that. And also not getting crazy with the shocks. Because like you said, you can just throw a bunch of money at those things. And that's not what your guys' series is about. So I think those are all good things moving forward. And as a fan, I'm glad to see those for the series.
Good, good.
Moving into 2026, let's talk about the last couple years. In 2024, your top five was separated by less than 100 points. And in 2025, the top four was also separated by less than 100 points. A lot of competition there. You had some bad luck in 25 with the rainouts, but nonetheless, the competition was fierce. I know you're going to have some cars at the Race Cars, the Future Stars event there at the former Pickle Mall, March 20th through the 22nd of 2026. And then in April, the 2026 schedule kicks off for the USAC Midwest Thunder Midgets, April 24th at Montpelier, starting where you guys began.
That's right.
The Milkman's doing good things there at Montpelier. I, as a fan, really appreciate the pit setup, especially if you can get in the back end there in 1 and 2, because you can stand at the pit and watch the races from there. That's pretty cool, in my opinion. May 2nd, that's going to be a special event for you guys at Eldora Speedway. Always awesome to watch the midgets rip around there. I know some guys that have that circled on their calendar. I know it's rough on motors, but I know guys want to get there. It's one of those places. It's a mecca. And if you get the opportunity to say you raced at Eldora, man, talk about checking off a lifetime experience. That's one of them there. Then the third race of the season for you guys is May 8th at Lima Land and the Mike Stryker Memorial, a huge event for you guys and always good to see. Last year was a great season, in my opinion, at Lima Land, and I hope they continue to build on that. It's cool seeing you guys there, and I'm glad to see the Mike Stryker Memorial continuing. May 16th, Lawrenceburg. May 21st, I have as a TBA, and that's also going to be a special event for you guys. May 29th, you're going to be at Moeller for $1,000 to win. Big money on the line for the Midwest Thunder Midgets at Moeller. June 6th, Atomic. June 12th, back to Lima Land. June 18th, Waynesfield, and you're supporting the Ohio Sprint Speed Week with the All-Star Circuit of Champions. June 20th, Atomic. July 10th, Bloomington. July 11th, Paragon. July 18th, back to Montpelier. July 31st, back to Moeller. August 1st at Fremont. August 8th at Montpelier. August 15th is a TBA. August 22nd at Lawrenceburg. August 28th at Moeller. September 18th is a TBA. September 19th, I really like this. I got there for the first time last year. Lincoln Park. Very cool facility, very cool track. Hope to get a chance to actually be there in person when you guys hit the track on September 19th. And you're going to wrap up the season where you began the season, October 3rd at Montpelier. Loaded schedule. I've told you this time and time again, and I'll keep telling you. Love the schedules that you have put together. But I got to ask, what goes into planning it? How did we come up with the schedule for 2026? When does that start? How much work goes into it with you and other people? I'm sure there is a ton behind the scenes that goes into these schedules.
You know, it all honestly felt a little less stressful this year than it has in the previous 9 years. I mean, for the longest time, it was me making cold calls and begging and pleading to get us in. This year, I started getting calls, I'm going to say late October, which honestly felt like, man, just give me a break. We just finished a couple of weeks ago, and now you're wanting to talk about 2026. But, you know, when I think back, when I was involved with another series back in the 90s, the focus was, get your schedule in pretty good shape by the time Daytona Speed Weeks comes around in the middle of February. Yeah, the promoters workshops were down there. You could, meet with promoters. You could knock it all out in the middle of February. And then it started more like by the first of the year, by Chili Bowl time, you got to have your schedule in place. And that made it a little harder. And then all of a sudden, the big series all started announcing at PRI, And then that forced all the tracks to at least have their big shows sorted out by the beginning of December. So I think a lot of them take the approach of, well, if I've got to figure out where all my big shows go, then that's naturally then going to feed into where's everything else going to fall. And so they're trying to knock it out in late October, early November. So by December, they've got it all done. So for me to be getting calls instead of have to be making calls felt good. And I think that's a reflection of some of those long-term relationships that we've had, tracks like you mentioned Mount Pillier and where it all started. And that's absolutely true. Moeller has been a constant all the way back to 2026 when we started. Lima Land, Atomic, Waynesfield are all tracks. Now, the catch-22 there is, Milkman's only been around for a couple of years. So I feel like I've been calling different promoters in conjunction with Mount Pillier every year for years and years. So love to see what he's done, he and his team, because it takes a team, takes a village to run one of these things. And in their case, kind of appropriate, right? It is the village of Mount Pillier coming together to support that track and make it what it is. But hopefully we've got the Milkman for years to come, and we can continue a solid relationship there. Larry, the folks at Moeller, one of our favorite stops every year. Lima Land with the Striker Memorial Race is so important to us to keep Mike's name alive out there and help people remember that, Findlay, Ohio was the home of the USAC National Midget Champion at one point in time, not to mention all the impact he had at UNOH and with the Quarter Midget Association and so forth. Fremont, again, a lot of these tracks, good relationships. And so I was feeling pretty good, come November that we had a lot of things in place. But there's always some curveballs that come along, right? So trying to work through that. And I think that really feeds into my philosophy. It would be great to have the kind of relationship that the old Mount Pillier Midget Series had, where there were, I think, felt like 2 races a month. Maybe it wasn't quite that many. There might have been a few breaks along there, but you had, 10 or 11 races at Mount Pillier as the basis of your plans for the next year. And then you filled in from there. Well, then things changed, and Harold stepped away and other promoters came in and they had other interests and so forth. So that shows the vulnerability of aligning yourself too closely with a small number of tracks. So I've taken the philosophy, one, because I love a traveling schedule, the way it forces you to be more on your toes from a car setup standpoint, from a driver standpoint. There's a lot of diversity there. You talked about the big tracks with Eldora and Lawrenceburg, and certainly the big track at Millstream is another example. And then we got our little bull rings, right? The quarter mile tracks. So I think having that variety is good for the drivers, expose them to more things. It's good for the crew chiefs because you can't just, I raced at Shady Bowl for years. I used to spend like 3 hours on Saturday morning getting the car ready because I never changed a darn thing. It was an asphalt track, same shock setup, same springs, same everything. These guys have to do a lot more work. And I understand that when we go from one place to the next, but I think it makes us better in the long run. But things do change. So I got a couple of TBAs in there. I'm super glad that Rich Farmer has stepped up. He stepped up late last year at Waynesfield and was able to get in a few races. I had hopes that he could significantly expand his Waynesfield schedule this year and that we could be a part, kind of cut a deal with Rich last year and said, if you just give me one, I'll get off your back. But come 2026, I hope you remember that I made life easy for you and you give me some more dates. But he's still working through some things at Waynesfield. We haven't seen an announcement yet on their schedule. And honestly, I'm not a big fan of announcing until the track's announced because I want to make sure they've got everything on their end good, and I don't want to be out ahead of their announcements. So we're still waiting to hear a few things around Waynesfield. The other one that's still in the works is Circle City in Indiana. That's been one that has been a good partner to us right from the very beginning. But they've also, I think, they're on their third, maybe fourth round of different promoters during that 10-year time frame. And the Van Meters that have run it for the last couple of years have done a great job continuing to move that forward. But they've got some other things too, especially with their son's success on the pavement side of things. So they're looking at their plans for next year. We're still waiting to understand where we fit in, but I do have very high hopes that we'll be back for that Ashley Albertson Memorial Race in September. That was a fantastic night. Putting the rainouts aside, highlights of last year, Boxall coming from 18th to 1st to win that race, and and to be able to contribute to the cause of the Albertson Foundation around awareness of distracted driving, drunk driving, the importance of wearing seatbelts. Unfortunately, Ashley's passing has been something that's led to them playing that role to bring awareness, and I think that's an awesome tribute to their daughter. But we want to continue to be a part of that. It was a great night of racing with the USAC sprint cars, the Midwest TQs, or I'm not even sure what they call themselves anymore, the TQs out of Indiana, and ourselves made for a great night of racing, full grandstands that night, and definitely something we want to do. On the flip side, and I listened to Aaron Fry and your podcast from a week or two ago. Aaron's always been somebody I've looked up to with his accomplishments as a racer, and then as promoter of Boss and expanding into Fast, now the Gladiator Series. A lot of parallels, I thought. But he made the comment about a lot of tracks moving to more specials and less regular weekly shows. And I think he's spot on. We're seeing more and more of that. And even like Mount Pillier, fairly full schedule, but when you look at June, July, and August, I think they have 9 races in that 3 months period. So they're taking a few breaks, and they're entitled to that. But it makes it harder to find a spot for all the support series that Ryan would like to book there. Kokomo is a place that we have been. Unfortunately, we've had our fair share of rainouts at Kokomo over the year, like we did again this year or last year. But Kokomo has decided to go without support classes on 6 of their races: the SmackDown races, the 2 USAC races, and there was one other. So unfortunately, we lost that race that we have had with the USAC cars there, because there isn't going to be a support class that night. And if you look at a lot of the races that week at the USAC Sprint Speed Week, they don't have support classes at all. It's just the sprint cars and done. So disappointing. I understand why the O'Connors made the decision that they did. Hopefully we'll be able to find a way to get back in there in some future year, but you're going to have those things come up.
Yep.
Oh, and you mentioned Lincoln Park, and I did want to make one comment, because I feel like I got myself in this box and then I couldn't get myself out last year. So we have had a number of years where we have not had a race scheduled against the Four Crown at Eldora. And it's become somewhat of a social night for our guys. We all get together. It's great. We're at the racetrack, but we're not competing at the racetrack. We can spend a good time enjoying each other's company. Usually get 20, 25, 30 guys there. Same thing for the Rumble during the winter. But we also had some guys competing this year in the Four Crown. And so we had a low car count at Lincoln Park, our lowest of the year. And that's frustrating to me, because, as most probably know, USAC has taken over the operations of the track, and Tommy Estes, USAC employee, is running it. So I kind of feel like we need to to step up our deal and support Lincoln Park better next year. And so that race is not 4 Crown weekend. Everybody can go, have a nice time, enjoy the friendship, and then hopefully everyone makes that effort to go support Lincoln Park. I've left open Memorial Weekend, 4th of July weekend, and Labor Day weekend for family functions because we all have to do that. I've left open the 4 Crown because I learned my lesson last year and think we have a great schedule wrapped around all the other weekends throughout the summer.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think I'm starting to become biased, but I've told you the last couple of years, and this year's no different. Like, I really enjoy your guys' schedule and just that you visit different facilities, big and small, Ohio, Indiana, and it just, you get to be a sports series for some big events. Speed Week at Waynes Field. You've got some TBAs in there that I'm sure will be some cool announcements. You're bringing back the striker once again, $1,000 to win at Moeller, and you're starting and ending your season at Montpelier. So another good schedule for the USAC Midwest Thunder Midgets in 2026. I'm looking forward to getting to the track, and I'm sure you are as well. Before we wrap it up, where can everybody follow you? Do you have sponsors you'd like to thank? And I think you also have some other opportunities you'd like to talk about.
Yeah. Before I get to that, though, I do want to say one thing I left out earlier. Thinking about 2026, looking back to 2025, we're always focused on continuous improvement. I've always been of the opinion you can't just stay steady, right? You're either continuing to move forward or you're going to fall back. So last year was one where we kind of went out on a limb a little bit and changed up some things. We partnered with the My Race Pass people to start using their app as our race day administration tool. And that worked out very well. I think we're just dipping our toe in that. There's a lot more to it that we can do. But it certainly simplified our sign-in procedures, our lineup procedures, and was just very pleased with that. So I encourage people to look into that. If you got the app at the racetrack, if you come to watch our show, a great way. And right there, when I'm talking about tech, that like opens up the covers, right? You can see lap times, you can, qualification times, lap times during the race. It's all right there for everyone to see. And you can see that parity that you were talking about that leads to that parity that we have in the points championship at the end of the year. We also bought our own transponders, just so we would have a little better control over that process. And it would be one less thing that the racetrack would have to concern themselves with. So we sign in our guys, we hand out the transponders, we communicate with the tower, we get all that done. Again, it's, me and Chuck and a bunch of volunteers. So to have a couple extra set of hands, I thought would be super beneficial going into 2025. So we ended up working with the UNOH, University of Northwest Ohio, for those that might not be aware, but a great program for their high performance technology degree there. We were able to make students aware that there was an opportunity to come and volunteer and be a part of our team and gain experience helping administer on race day. And we ended up with 5 students that we selected to support that program. Nobody can come and do that all summer long at that age, but they kind of handed things off. But I would say they were all great. Appreciate them all. But we had one student, Audrey, that really took ownership of this thing, was so helpful in looking at some of the processes we were doing and coming up with better ways to get things done. Knew we could count on her. And it's thrilling to me. I'm sure she'll go on and do great things within racing and will be one little bullet on her resume. But I think the opportunity to now point and say, well, look what Audrey did. You can do that too, and Audrey's going to go on and do this or do that. And you've got that opportunity. So really excited about expanding that relationship beyond just the Stryker Memorial with UNOH, but also with the students. So I think that's my my story there. But with the sponsorship, and again, I really enjoyed your podcast with Aaron Fry. And one of the things that he said that kind of jumped out at me, and I realized maybe I've missed this opportunity. Our series is a USAC sanctioned regional series, and USAC does contribute to our points fund each year. And similar to Aaron, probably about half of the funding to our points fund. The behind the curtain on that is that, Hoosier Race Tire is the exclusive tire of all things USAC. And Hoosier pays USAC based on usage, and how they factor that in is a formula based on the number of cars that compete in the USAC events. But at the end of the year, they do the math, make a payment to USAC. USAC then runs their formula for us and cuts that check to our association. So I've in the past not really pushed this is money coming from Hoosier and we all need to say thank you to Hoosier, but I think that's something I need to rectify. And so I want to put that out there that we're very appreciative. We too, like all other USAC series, are a Hoosier All Four Corner series. Aaron had some great comments, some interesting comments. We're maybe coming at that from a little different way. The decision by the National Midget Series to move to that harder SP3 tire has been phenomenal for us, because with our horsepower and the way we wear tires, we can get multiple nights out of a right rear tire. And we still have the opportunity with a lot of those national teams to get their cast-offs, and our guys can use a once used tire at the national level and still maybe get 3 nights out of that. So Hoosier's a good partner. It's a great tire that they're giving us, and they're having a significant impact on the bottom line of our organization that we then pass on to our drivers. So wanted to mention that. Performance Electronics coming back as our series sponsor and our sponsor of Heat Race number 1 out of Cincinnati, Ohio area. Performance ignition systems, what most of our guys have gone to. It's become the go-to product for us. There's only so many D2 midgets in this world, but there's a whole bunch of micros, and those guys at PE are doing a great job coming up with solutions in the micro world too, along with a lot of other stuff that they do. But we're glad to have them back. Jeff Hill Trailer Sales was a late addition last year, kind of playing off the some other series that have brought in sponsors for their victory lane. Jeff and his company, which is in the Indianapolis, kind of the east of Indianapolis area in Indiana, have stepped in to be our victory lane sponsor, and they're coming back again next year. Rosewood Machines, anybody that's been around racing here in Western Ohio certainly sees the Rosewood Machine Precision Move award at Eldora and Shady Bowl and a whole bunch of other places. They've been doing that for us. I'm not sure how many years now, but they're coming back in 2026 as well. Performance Powder Coating out of Northwest Ohio. I always say it wrong. I think everybody says it different. Rushi or whatever, Ohio. But really appreciate Dave and his crew for the support for many years at Waynesfield, and they've continued to support us with our Hard Charger Award. And then the Hoosier Auto Racing Fans out of Indiana, that fan club. And we talked about Steve Stiffel and his company, the Stiffel Home and Auto LLC, are our Heat Race number 2 and Heat Race number 3 sponsors coming back. We kind of evolved a little bit with the contingency awards last year. We got together with Willwood Brakes, and so we do a redraw. Some of you might be familiar. Everybody that finishes in the top 3 on a night where we've got 3 heats goes into a redraw for the feature lineup, and you might end up with pill number 9. So I always feel a little bad about the guy that ends up with that 9th pill. So we give that person the Willwood gift certificate for the Lucky Break Award. And the good news is a lot of our guys that started 9th were in the mix, and some even won the race from the 9th place redraw. Saldana Racing Products, still trying to come up with a real good theme there, but right now they're the lucky number 13. So whoever finishes 13th gets a Saldana gift certificate, because we figure the guys towards the back of the pack probably could get some benefit from that as much or more as the guys in the front. And then Link Chassis, everyone's talking about them at Chili Bowl this year. A lot of the leading teams have gone to the Link Chassis. Last year they gave us a chassis to raffle off as a part of our I guess actually we didn't charge for tickets. We just handed out tickets, and Chet Gerke, a longtime Ford Focus competitor and a great competitor in our series, won the giveaway chassis. I've got some news to come about a very well-known national safety equipment company that's coming on board with a package for us for next year. That leaves me with just 2. In the past, we've had a Quick Time Award in an organization out of Wisconsin called VMS Motorsports. It's a online digital parts supplier, originally focused on Legends cars. He was looking to expand out into other product lines. He's decided to kind of take a step back from the midget focus, which we certainly understand. We appreciate the years of support he gave us. So we'll be looking for a new QuickTime sponsor. And then lastly, our Hard Luck sponsorship, our Hard Luck Award, we'll be looking for a new sponsor of that. For a number of years, DARF was our Hard Luck Award sponsor. And then the last few years, Lynn Cook has taken that on herself. She's a longtime board member of DARF. Her and her father are well known, especially around the Waynesfield area, for supporting racing causes. And there was a race in her father's name for a number of years at Waynesfield. And hopefully we can bring that back. But Lynn is close to the Matt Westfall team, and with Jacob Boxall's success over the last part of this season and going into Chili Bowl, we certainly expect her to be spending more time at the national level and less time at the D2 supporting JB. And so we understand her decision to take a step back there. So yeah, we'll be putting some things out on our Facebook page. That is our primary way to communicate with the race fans and those that are interested in what we do. Actually have some help coming in this year. Jody Hanley Decker, we talked about her son early on as one of the rookie contenders, but she has taken on some of that. Some of the work you saw with the Chili Bowl was Jody's. We appreciate her assistance. Last year, we started the TikTok page, way out of my comfort zone, but Bella Hall, Luke Hall's daughter, one of our competitor, his daughter, Bella, stepped up, took ownership, created that, put out some great content from the Chili Bowl last week. So we'll be sharing information about our series there. We still have a web page for those that want to get into the gory details. The rule book's out there. Our schedule will be out there, previous year's points and so forth. But that's at Midwest Thunder Midgets with an S.com.
Awesome. I mean, we're not far off. In a couple months, the Race Cars and Future Stars Expo will be at the Piqua Center. I mean, that's really kind of when things get rolling. You know, you're going to have cars there, and it won't be but a week or two later, and cars are finally hitting the track, and the USAC Midwest Thunder Midget Series will be getting their 2026 season underway. So for Greg Watson, this is Josh. Guys, thanks for joining us on another episode of USAC Midwest Thunder Midget Monthly, and we hope to see you at the track.